Welcome back to the Wizard Weekly, where we talk about everything in gaming. Now, Nintendo, I'd say right now has a huge chip on their shoulder to deliver whatever their next generation of console and gaming is going to be in, the near future, because we all know that Switch 2, it's coming real soon. With the controversy of the PlayStation 5, Xbox doing whatever it's doing, people have a lot of high regard, at least Nintendo fans themselves have a lot of high regard for the Switch and having, value as a console and a platform within first party games and, things like that. And me, I'm not here to pick no sides, I'm a wizard. I do everything and experience every possible form of gaming that I can because, I just can. But I do have a lot of high regard for Nintendo for how they conduct their business within just making good fun games. A lot of games nowadays just feel like they're just pieced together to make a profit, but I always get a fun vibe whenever I'm playing Nintendo first party games. So that's what I can say about them. Just because we're reaching the latter period of the Nintendo Switch console era doesn't mean that the company has stopped releasing games for this console. Just because we're reaching the end period of the Nintendo Switch era of console, Nintendo hasn't stopped with releasing first party games for the console, because in the last Nintendo Direct, they showed a whole bunch of upcoming games that are coming out this year, including Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which is a new spin-off Zelda game where this time, instead of playing as Link, you're playing for the first time as Zelda, and you're going to be going through adventure trying to save Link and save the whole country of Hyrule. But this game is supposed to be coming out on September 26th of this month. But in sad Nintendo fashion, there's reports on the internet that this game has been leaked online. Now, let's talk about this. Now, unfortunately, Switch games being leaked is damn near a rite of passage for titles nowadays. Mario Bros. Wonder got leaked a week or two before it got released. Infamously, Breath of the Wild got leaked, which resulted in a lawsuit and people getting charged, and I think that's how Yuzu got took down. Yeah, this was a crazy time. Yuzu reached a settlement with Nintendo, paying millions of dollars and shutting down their services because Tears of the Kingdom got a lot of downloads using this emulator. We all know that Nintendo has a really crazy war on piracy. If this thing was an inanimate object, it would be in jail, it would be tortured. They would do everything that they can to make this being as miserable as possible. They would Gary Bowser the hell out of this person or whatever it could be. So given their disdain for anything related to the word piracy, you could probably imagine that even just the rumor for a leak of Echoes of Wisdom being out is just fuming in their offices right now. Now, the only reason I say rumor, for me at least, there are reports of people having this game in their hands and playing it on private servers and sharing it with their friends and whatnot. Even YouTuber Nintendo Prime, who is really respected in the Nintendo community, he made an entire video that you guys should check out where he basically says that this is real. He's seen it with his own two eyes. Obviously he didn't share it or distribute it because that's bad, but he says that this is real, and a lot of other Nintendo figures in the community have said it's real. But the only reason I say it's a rumor is because I haven't seen it. Before I say what I'm about to say, I don't condone any forms of piracy. I don't condone any forms of distributing, downloading, or anything that has to do with anything that's not officially out and paid for. You shouldn't do it. I don't do it. But allegedly, possibly in some reality, I might have a few websites that I go to whenever I want to look at ROMs or games that might not have released in all parts of the world yet, and I just haven't seen, allegedly I haven't seen this game on any of those platforms. So either right now we're in the really early stages and people are just really cautious with how they're distributing this, which is more likely the case, or Nintendo just has their goons on the front lines making sure this game doesn't reach the light of day anywhere. But there are reports that this game is making its way through the circles of the gaming community. And so with that, I also got to warn you guys, just like when any other game gets, an early release in New Zealand or whatnot, there's a lot of spoilers on TikTok, Twitter, the worst of all. So, make sure you go to whatever social platform that you use and go to your settings and make sure you turn off, the safe words and what you don't want to see on your timeline. Make sure you type in Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, just until this game, whenever you get your hands on this title, if you don't want to worry about spoilers, because, if this reaches the mass public before it's released, because the game doesn't come out until September 26th, and it's only the 15th or the 16th today, you might want to, do something about that, because it's out there, apparently. But either way, I'm looking forward to Echoes of the Wisdom. I played Breath of the Wild for the first time, and I think earlier in the video I said Breath of the Wild instead of Tears of the Kingdom, so my bad if I said that. But I played Breath of the Wild for the first time, and that was fun. And now I gotta play Tears of the Kingdom. Probably not before this game comes out, since it's a spin-off title. I'll probably play this. Maybe I'll make a Wizard late night Wizard gaming video on that. We'll see. But yeah, man, leaks are out there, so just be careful and just see what happens with this. Moving on to some reassuring news. You guys remember Palworld, right? That game from earlier in the year that exploded on Steam and every platform that it was on, and became one of the highest growing and bought games on Steam itself. And it's basically a better version of the Pokemon games, where it's the same type of gameplay. You tame and battle the monsters that you find, and then you can basically turn them on into slaves and just go crazy with that. It's a really fun game. But in the recent days, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the game, because Pocket Pair, the developer of Palworld, their CEO had an interview showcase where, when they were asked about the future of Palworld and its monetization, he said that he's a little unsure as far as like what to do with the game, and possibly toying with the idea of turning it into a live service. Now, if you don't know, Palworld is a game that you pay for. I don't remember the exact price of it. I think it was like $29.99 at its base price. And obviously the game's been purchased hundreds of thousands of times. So, he toyed with the idea. He didn't like officially say that, but he said that, they were in talks of trying to figure out how they can make a sustainable business model going forward with the game. And obviously that poses the live service model poses a lot of risks, because like I said, thousands of players already bought into the game, so to turn it into a free-to-play title is just kind of scummy to people that already paid money for it. And plus, what you also got to understand, that Mizobi also says in his statement, is that Palworld as a game wasn't designed in mind for the live service model. Like for that kind of game service, you would have to make some sort of paid content that people would want to subscribe to along the way for long periods of time, which how do you do that for a Pokemon type of game? Don't let any AAA developer hear me say that, because I guarantee by 5 p.m. today they'll have like 3 different teams working on that, and they'll have 300 different ways. Like that's just how the business works. Like don't give them any ideas. But yeah, it's just a weird thing, and it rubbed a lot of people in a bad way, obviously, because we live in a live service, the peak of live service games, and people don't want this title that they love so much to turn into that. And luckily today, or yesterday, I don't know exactly when, but the Palworld developer Mizobi, he went on Twitter and he basically said in a TLDR that we are not changing our game's business model. It will remain buy to play and not free to play or games as a service, which is assuring. So that's pretty good. And the rest of the his tweet, he basically says that interview was from months ago, and since then the team has already decided that Palworld is just not going to go in that games service model, because it just wouldn't work. But him and the team are still considering the path of Palworld, and even considering things like paid DLC and maybe skins and stuff, which is all cool for their business model, because Palworld is a really good game as its own. So I'm sure many of their diehard players wouldn't mind paying for, I don't know, maybe a skin or some DLC possibly. That's the better way to go out of a live service model, at least. So for those of you that want to abuse your Pokemon in the game, that want to continue doing it for free, this is still a pretty viable option. So good for the Palworld team. Hopefully this can continue to be a really good game in the future, and that's that. And lastly today, I wanted to talk about a little more gaming acquisitions and merges that's happening within studios and whatnot, because who doesn't love hearing about layoffs and shit like that? That's just, doesn't that make you happy? Anyways, this news isn't exactly about layoffs itself, but instead a little more hope and hopefully things that can happen for more companies going forward that have to deal with this kind of situation. Now, if you don't know, Embracer Group was one of the biggest corporations in gaming. Like, they owned so many studios. Like, they were comparable to how Microsoft is right now with all their studios at their peak. Like, they have so many developers and titles: Metro games, the Tomb Raider games, Dead Island 2. The list goes on and on for the games and developers that they had at their peak. But unfortunately, last year, everything went to shit. Like, they fell through on a $2.2 billion deal with Saber Games Group as far as getting more games, more studios, and making more profit on that money. And they weren't able to get the deal with Saber Games Group, and announced later that they were making a restructuring program to where they were splitting up their business into 3 separate entities and selling off just a bunch of their studios, because their titles just wasn't profitable as they used to. Like, they already sold off Gearbox to Take-Two Interactive. That's people that made Borderlands. They've laid off thousands of people. Like, when I say thousands, I literally mean thousands. As a matter of fact, I can probably show you guys real quick. Yeah, here are the metrics as of Q2 2024. They've reduced over 74 games out of production, laid off over almost 5,000 people. That's insane. And only 140 studios, with a reduction of 48 studios that they had to get rid of and sell and shut down. Which, it is, when we think of the gaming industry as far as like how bad it is right now with all the layoffs and shutdowns of studios, Embracer Group is damn near the embodiment and just overall unfortunate poster boy for what that is in 2023 and 2024. Like, Embracer Group is going out bad. But they're still afloat, and they're still doing business with the studios that they can sell off and make a profit off of, like Saber Interactive, which was once one of their studios that they bought back in, I think, 2017. I don't know the exact date, so my bad if I'm butchering that. But Saber Interactive, these guys are behind a whole bunch of cool ass games. Snow Runner, Crisis, like I got right here on the screen, NBA Playgrounds, Teardowns. They make a lot of good games, and they were bought out by Embracer Group years back. And following this reduction program, they decided to buy back their studios for a deal that's working up to $500 million. So Saber Interactive is about to become back to its own entity, and luckily it was announced that the studio just hired on some new investors to help clear the debt that Saber Interactive owes Embracer Group. Because they're still in the midst of paying off this up to $500 million deal, because I doubt anyone just has fucking $500 million just laying around. I know they're pretty successful studio, but it's a process for all this. And Matt Karch, the CEO over at Saber Interactive, he hired on some pretty notable investors to help clear this debt off, and he's saying that he's really confident that this whole process is going to go over really smoothly, because the people that he's doing business with are just really good people. This is what he's saying. He says, "I've been doing this business long enough to know that the most important aspect of any investment is who your partners are, and I can take with a tremendous confidence that Jamie and Brian are, and their respective teams at Aleph and Crestview, are the right fit for Saber's future." Now, that is, really cool to see, because we see so many different studios being shut down left and right because of failed decisions on the the bigger scope of gaming, you know, with the corporations that own them and probably bought them out years prior. And to some degree, you know, even if some studios get the opportunity to break away from these bigger companies, a lot of times they might be held up in contracts or, you know, exclusivity deals to where they can't even make their own games under their own publishing. So a lot of times it's a lot of legal stuff that prevents them from being their own entity even after they leave a sinking ship that's, you know, perform pretty bad. So to see Saber Interactive, that was once a really good studio and even now a good studio, be able to leave this ship and likely be successful in the future with all their endeavors is really cool to see. And I hope we get to see more of that. And obviously, like he said, it comes down to the business people that you're with and who can help you do what and you navigate the whole process of doing all this. But yeah, I like Saber Interactive. The only game I ever played from them, I guess technically is, well, I guess they kind of co-developed Mortal Kombat 1. I played that, but I guess like one of their like main developed games that I played out of these is Insurgency Sandstorm. I played this a while ago. Well, that's all I got to say for today's Wizard Weekly episode. I'll see you on the next one.